I just beat Elden Ring literally yesterday, and maybe 5 minutes ago I beat Millennia. Worst 2 days of my life, but it's done. I did it. And I still have zero idea what the lore is about. I think that's par for the course when you play Elden Ring though, so we're gonna watch this dude's video, Elden Ring's lore explained.
Our story doesn't begin in the lands between. It begins in the cosmos, far away, with an outer god called the Greater Will. There are a lot of outer gods mentioned in Elden Ring. You can think of these kind of like the great ones of Bloodborne. They're distant beings.
The dudes I hate are those outer gods, like the giant beast type enemies. Is Estelle an outer god?
They're all powerful and they're quite unknowable.
Or do we
by
never see
design.
them?
But many of these outer gods want to make their presence felt in the world. The Greater Will, maybe most of all. To this end, it sent a golden star hurtling towards the lands between.
I kind of regret not using any magic.
Incantation
This
tells
all
us
looks
that
so
this
cool.
golden star was bearing a beast, an Elden beast.
Ooh.
The Elden Remembrance calls it a vassal beast of the Greater
Now,
Will.
while I don't normally like fighting beast type creatures, I did love this fight, not gonna lie. He's like a giant ethereal Lapras with no shell. And Lapras is my favorite Pokemon.
Will. If you didn't know, a vassal is someone who holds land on behalf of their overlord. Obviously, this is fitting in this case, because the Elden Beast occupied the lands between on behalf of the Greater Will, and was a living incarnation of the concept of
I'm
order.
still mad
As
confused,
such,
guys.
this beast would later become the Elden Ring.
Yeah,
The
good old
Elden Ring
Nessie.
itself is made up of runes of power, some great, some small, that together represent a sort of logic for the world to follow. Thus, the Elden Ring represents order. The true nature of this order is
So runes are like clout in real life.
subject of constant debate and research
Is this Gold Mask? I was asking about this guy. I hope we get to Gold Mask in here.
undergone by fundamentalists.
I never met him.
But two of the key fundamentals are the laws of causality and regression. You can think of the law of causality as cause and effect, where actions have consequences, and those consequences are new causes that branch out into infinity. These are the relationships between things. Then there's the law of regression that states that all things eternally yearn to converge and return to their roots. Fittingly, then, the Elden Ring is housed within the Erdtree, which towers over the lands between.
I see.
But it's very important to stress that
So we burned the Elden Ring question mark?
life in the lands between did not begin with the Erdtree.
Dude, I feel like I'm gonna end this and I'm still gonna have no idea about anything. Do we talk about my boy? Where is he? Horolo! I love that dude.
The Elden
Just the way
Ring
they
or
say his
the
name,
Elden
it's too
Beast.
good.
No, the lands between were occupied well before the Greater Will came. There were other beings here. There were other factions here.
Just
There
some
were other
god
gods
skins?
here. And there was even another great tree here before the Erdtree.
Don't worry, Rinzer. I have a bunch of Elden Ring lore videos stockpiled. This is just the first one.
And this is where a huge twist regarding the Erdtree comes in. So, there are incantations in the game called aspects of the Crucible. According to their descriptions, these are manifestations of the Erdtree's primal
Crucible Knight stuff. I love those guys. My favorite enemy in the game.
vital energies. And I quote, "They are an aspect of the primordial crucible where all life was once blended together." But how could all life be blended together in the Erdtree if the Erdtree appeared after life existed? Well, there can only be one answer, right? That the Erdtree is a parasite, and it took over a tree that existed here before.
Oh.
This ancient tree was called the Great Tree. So the Great
Crucible Tree Knight armor. Sorry, I just love Crucible Knights.
Tree was almost certainly the location of this primordial crucible, and it must
Oh,
have
he's putting his reasoning behind this in the items. Damn, did everyone really get their lore from just reading the items?
been a very powerful primordial force for the Greater Will
That's
to
crazy.
have commandeered. It might even be the reason the lands between is important to the Greater Will in the first place. It also explains why spells and enemies related to the Great Tree's crucible would eventually be looked down upon. For example, the knot talisman is fashioned from a knotted vestige of the crucible, and it was considered a signifier of the divine in ancient
This is the headshot one, right?
times, but is now increasingly disdained as an impurity as civilization has advanced.
Honestly, I like that method of storytelling because I hate long, drawn-out cutscenes. I enjoyed all the Elden Ring cutscenes now that I think about it. When I think of them, though, it's mainly just Margit, like Margit and Morgott. The intro cutscene, though, one of the best in gaming. That I will admit, that gets me so hyped. If you can get me hyped off of saying the words "dung eater," like you cooked. You know what I mean?
Enemies related to the Crucible are the Omen, the Misbegotten, and the Crucible Knights, and all three of them would be shunned, enslaved, or imprisoned.
I wonder what a Crucible Knight looks like under that armor.
Those who speak for the Erdtree don't want you to know its roots, so to speak. According to the spell, protection of the Erdtree, in the beginning everything was in opposition to the Erdtree, but through countless victories in war, it became the embodiment of order.
In Marika's own words, the Erdtree governs all. The choice is thine. Become one with the order, or divest thyself of it. To wallow at the fringes, a powerless upstart.
But the Greater Will needed more than a big tree. It needed loyal agents in the lands between. To this end, it has the two fingers.
Bro, is that hair? I never noticed how disgusting these look.
Its envoys. The two fingers heirloom has a weird picture of them, but it reads, of course, fingers cannot speak, yet these are eloquent. Persistently they wriggle, spelling out mysteries in the air. Thus did
Sign
we gain
language?
the words of our faith. These words are interpreted by the finger readers. These are the undying old crones that you would have found.
I hate these things with all due respect. I hope I can make them go extinct in the DLC.
Throughout the lands between. They pass down the wisdom of the two fingers, or at least they used to.
Your fingers, please, your fingers. I can read them.
Most of them appear to have lost their purpose, and they're desperate to read your fingers and tell you annoying riddles, since their two fingers are likely dead. And yes, of course, there are multiple sets of two fingers.
Now they're making it mad sad and I look like the bad guy. I'll ease up. They're just old fellas who are sad that they lost their fingers. I never made the connection that these once belonged to a finger reader. So the finger reader in the round table, like that's their fingers? Those are theirs? Like they're each assigned one? Is that how this works? I don't know, man.
You would have found their corpses on the tops of the divine towers. Atop these towers, you loot the fingers in order to activate the true power of a great rune. Specifically though, you are giving benediction back to your great rune. You're taking a blessing back from the two dead fingers, essentially. This is just one of many blessings that the two fingers can bestow, and my point is kind of that the two fingers clearly have...
Guys, I never realized that Ronnie was sitting on two fingers. And I did not realize those were her two fingers. I thought this was just a bleeding tree, dude.
More than just influence.
All right, that scene goes hard
real
now.
Power on some level. The Greater Will needs these powerful envoys and agents because, while it's obviously incredibly powerful, it does seem limited by a few things. First is space. The Greater Will didn't come to the lands between itself, it sent an elden beast to do its bidding instead. Second is time. There is a moment later in the game where your pair of two fingers go still because they're forced to commune with the Greater Will for guidance.
When they are finished, the fingers will again offer their guidance. But thousands, if not tens of thousands, of moons must first pass. No matter for me. But you, how will you ever manage to wait?
So the Greater Will needs a physical manifestation of order. It needs envoys to convey its will, but what it also needs is a god. Introducing Marika the Eternal.
Okay, I was wondering what the hell was oh god. Oh god. We have a diagram.
I have this utterly...
What I was going to say is I was wondering, what I want to know most is what's going on with Marika. Like, why is the black lightning dude her? And then the beast clergyman, why is he Radagon? Like, what the hell's going down?
Enormous mind map of Elden Ring's lore, and
Bro,
there's
this
a
is
reason
demonic.
she's at the center. She's essentially the equivalent of Gwyn from Dark Souls. Except, unlike Gwyn, Marika didn't just crawl out of the dark and find power. To an extent, it seems like she earned it. We don't know much about her origins, except that she is
Strong, independent woman. We love that. We stand that. Slay queen.
of the Newman race, which is actually an origin that you can choose in the character selection screen. Newman come
You
from
know I love spoilers, Angel. I'm all about the spoilers. Oh, Newman! Bro, I thought Newman's was like, Newman's own, the salad dressing dude, but also just ants, because all the ants have those. The face of the Newman, supposed descendants of denizens of another world, long lived but seldom born. Why do the
outside
ants have
lands
'em?
between, and are supposed descendants of denizens of another world, long-lived but seldom born. At some point, Marika was chosen as an Empyrean. What is an Empyrean? Well, an Empyrean is a being chosen by the Fingers as a candidate for godhood. As an Empyrean, Marika received the aid of a shadow to do her bidding. So what is a shadow?
Oh.
Well, it's a wolf, shadowbound to its Empyrean by the two fingers. Luna Princess Rani is another example of an Empyrean with a shadowbound beast. You would have met live.
Oh!
These creatures are the Empyrean's very own shadow. They are completely loyal to their needs and, by definition, incapable of treachery.
Now I understand Blade's mental breakdown. I was memeing that it was because I stole his girl, but I get it now.
Marika's shadow was a beast called Malakath. Every Empyrean uses their shadow in different ways, but Marika's sole need of her shadow was as a vessel to lock away destined death. So what is destined death? Well, according to Enya, it's the rune of death.
The rune of death goes by two names. The other is destined death.
We mentioned earlier that the Elden Ring is made up of runes, and at some point, maybe when she was chosen as a god,
I'm getting very bad flashbacks right now, let me tell you.
Marika plucked the Rune of Death from the Elden Ring. She gave the Rune of Death to Malakath, her totally loyal shadow, who bore a black blade imbued with this rune. It's kind of genius, really. In a single act, she removed the concept of death from the lands between, while also commanding total control of death through her shadow, who could deliver it.
So, Marika's evil? Question
Her
mark?
will. Now, some of you might be asking, if death is removed from the lands between, how come I can kill this dog? First off, shame on you. Second, from a lore point of view, that dog isn't really dead. It's simply in the process of its spirit, or its soul, returning to the Erdtree.
Okay, so you see, whenever I would kill a Crucible Knight, I wondered why they didn't respawn, other than I figured it was just like a difficulty thing, they didn't want you to have to keep killing them. But that makes me salty because I want to keep killing them. But I was like, if everything else respawns, and that's like the lore of the game, there's no death, why are they missing? Now I know.
Dungeons,
God,
for example,
essentially?
are specifically constructed near the roots of the
So she is evil.
Great
It's a
Tree
joke. It's a joke. Calm down.
for this reason, so that the Erdtree can reabsorb their ashes back into it. This process replaced the concept of a death that you were destined to have. But this random spirit outside of a catacomb dungeon says it best. As another example of this theory, when you kill a major boss, you receive a remembrance of them. These are spirits, and they are hewn into the Erdtree. In this way, thanks to the Erdtree's grace, their spirits are immortalized, in a sense. This new form of death also explains what's happening when you summon spirits.
From ash and return to the
I
Erdtree.
see.
However, some spirits never return to the Erdtree, and they rise within death as corpses or skeletons instead.
Because of the death root, which we will cover in another video. Damn. This game, this lore is crazy. There's just so much. And it's all hidden in items and little ghosts.
So this was the new order. And it's important to stress that it was in this moment, when the Rune of Death was removed, when Destined Death was taken, this is when Order became the Golden Order.
The forbidden shadow plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation.
Alright, we want to pay attention to this part because I'm gold and I like the Golden Order, even though I don't know what they do.
Specifically, this was Marika's Golden Order. So not only did she become a god and a vessel for the Elden Ring, she became renowned as Marika the Eternal for her removal of destined death. It was a huge part of her character and her reign as well. However, Marika had more than just death to conquer. She had wars to fight, as the world was occupied by many...
Toph, I don't know if you were here, but I was asking, what did George R.R. Martin do? And Doja Rat said he's famous for not finishing Game of Thrones. And then I was like, that's kind of perfect that he helped write Elden Ring, because Elden Ring is a game that no one finishes. You start it and you quit. So it kind of works out perfectly.
Many forces that could threaten her Golden Order. There was war with the Storm Lord, who likely ruled over Stormvale, and there was a war with the Giants, who were masters of a flame that could
The
burn
Giants,
the
they are so annoying, specifically the Fire Giant. It's just a long, drawn-out fight. Speaking of which, food's here. Perfect pause. I'll BRB. You guys just wait a sec. He also wrote the 1987 Beauty and the Beast. Really? I'm saying really to the fact that there was a 1987 Beauty and the Beast TV series. What? Never heard of that. Interesting. So he did Game of Thrones, Beauty and the Beast, now Elden Ring. This dude has range.
tree. There was war with the ancient dragons, who incidentally had stones that could twist time and thus slay a god. And finally, there was war brewing with the Carrion royalty, who had previously obeyed laws which contravened the Golden Order. Thus, sort of similar to how the Greater Will needed an Empyrean to enforce its will, Marika herself needed someone to wage war. So, there was to be a husband, a consort, an Elden Lord. The man chosen was Horalu, a ferocious warrior.
What a good choice. Horalu! Sorry, I need to do it every time. I love this dude. Look at him. Look at him. I know he killed the tiger, lion. I'm sad about that. But he's a professional wrestler in Elden Ring. He's goated.
Who became known as the Lord of the Battlefield. His crown was warranted with strength, and while it was for this strength that Marika married him, he was also required to take a vow.
These hoes ain't loyal. All for the crown. Gold diggers, literally.
To conduct himself
Golden Order diggers. I think he's in the Golden Order anyway.
as a lord. To suppress the ceaseless lust for battle that raged within, Horalu took the beast regent Sarosh upon his back. You'll notice this is another example of a beast being given for the purpose of serving order.
So that's
Thus, in
a
this
wolf,
moment,
not a lion?
He went from being Horalu, warrior, to Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, consort to Queen Marika.
Do you think he got to change his name? Are they going to explain why everyone's name is a G, an M, or an R? Besides George R.R. Martin? Are we going to get the answer to that?
Certified demigod. Godfrey and Marika had 3 demigod children together. There was Godwyn the Golden, who you saw being killed in the opening trailer, and there were also the reviled Omen twins, Morgoth, who guards the Erdtree, and Mohg, who became Lord of Blood. You might think that Godric was another demigod child, but he actually wasn't. Instead, he was
I have heard that his story is very sad.
descended from Godwyn. Anyway, we'll talk about the demigods more in detail in another video, so subscribe for that.
Yeah, subscribe for that as well. I'll react to that video.
But for now, just know that Godfrey and his offspring were the first demigods, henceforth known as the Golden Lineage. In his wars, Godfrey led his 16 Crucible Knights into battle.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Godfrey / Horlo. He created or he taught the Crucible Knights. That's goated. He's too good.
Who were named so for they fought with the primordial powers of the Erdtree.
Wait,
Their
Ronnie's the
incantations
reason
were
angel?
aspects
Oh
of the
no.
Crucible itself, and they likely fought giants, dragons, the
Guys,
storm.
why is there a fight with 2 Crucible Knights? Why did no one tell me? I did not get to do this. I only fought like the snail who keeps spawning Crucible Knights, and I was refusing to kill the snail. You forgot, Angel. How could you do this to me? I forgive you.
Lord and more to usher in their age. The age.
Wait, Cod, have you not seen this? No, you've seen it. You're saying it for me, though. Sorry, Cod, sorry.
Tree.
In Marika's own words, hark, brave warrior.
We'll just re-level, Angel. We'll just respec and not use all of our levels. We'll go to 50.
Hark, my lord Godfrey. We commend your deeds.
Oh no,
Guidance
God.
hath delivered ye through each ordeal to the place ye stand. Put the giants to the sword and confine the flame atop the mount. Let a new epoch begin, an epoch glistening with life.
Any last Epoch
Brandish
gamers?
the Elden Ring for the age of the Erdtree.
The Erdtree would go on to be largely seen as a blessing for all of those in the lands between, especially those close to it in Lanedell, the capital city of the Erdtree. The tree bestowed blessings. For example, the dew that dropped from its branches were like jewels. It loomed overhead as a constant reminder of order, and its roots reached far and wide, relieving many of the burden of death. In fact, Erdtree burial was one of the highest honors.
Question. Like, in general, do the people within the world of Elden Ring, do they want to live? Like, do they not want to die? Because in every other piece of media, eternal life is bad. We stopped eternal life, right? By burning the Erdtree?
A hero could receive. One by one, the previous factions of the world fell. The giants were put to the sword, and their fell god was killed by Marika herself. The ancient dragons broke down the walls of Lanedell,
God.
but met fierce
We didn't even talk about the dragons yet. Not really disclosed if people in general want it, I see.
retaliation. However, I think the House
Wait,
of the
who are the ghosts? Are they like in the process of being reborn?
Erdtree encountered the most trouble against the land to their southwest, Leonia. Here, the House of the Moon repelled their offensives time and time again, and I mean that literally, because there was not just one but two wars fought here, and in both of these, there was no victory for the Golden nor for the Moon. And I suspect it was probably because of these lobsters. These damn things can snipe you from like a mile away, and it's bullshit. Actually, it was probably because of the Carrier Knights, who, according to their weapons, were able to wield sorcerous battle skills, and despite numbering fewer than 20, this power made them a match for even the champions of gold in battle. These enchanted knights were anointed by the Lunar Queen, a young astrologer.
Wait, does every boss have gold on them? I feel like they do, huh? This would count as gold, right? Killing Godwyn effed up most of the process. Godwyn, we don't kill him. He dies in the beginning, right? He gets killed immediately. I'm not ignoring you, Fiacha. I just have no idea who the son is. or the dad. Even though we were probably just told. Anyway, back to the video.
Went on to establish the House of Caria as royalty in this land. With her bewitching lunar magic, she won over the Academy of Raya Lucaria, where glintstone sorcery was studied, and united the Carian royal family and the learned scholars of Raya
Wait,
Lucaria.
killed by Ronnie's plot? So if we side with Ronnie, that's what happens? But if we don't side with Ronnie, he lives? Interesting. Radagon met Renala on the battlefield. Okay.
Defended their home from the golden aggressors. At the head of this great golden army,
I think you
was
talk about
Radagon.
that right now.
Lord Radagon was a great champion,
He was already dead?
possessed
Okay.
of flowing red locks. He came to these lands at the head of a great golden host.
Shout out this dude like designing all the characters for this video.
When he met Lady Renala in battle,
These two champions clashed, fell in love, and joined their houses.
Radagon once cleansed himself with celestial dew, repented his territorial aggressions, and swore his love to Renala. The Order of the Erdtree and the fate of the Moon were conjoined,
Okay,
and all
got
the
it.
wounds of war forgiven.
You might think it strange that the Greater Will would permit this union, but it's not too odd, all things considered. As with most From Software games, sorcery and faith are just two sides of the same coin, and both of these powers stem from the cosmos.
Never touched neither. Giant sword only. No throwables. No magic. You know the vibes.
Radagon
What I'm saying is I missed out on a ton of the game because I was stubborn and I regret it.
and Renala were known to have 3 children together. Lunar Princess Rani, who inherited her mother's propensity for lunar magic.
Can we
Radon?
listen in the DLC? I want to see what Ronnie looked like before she became blue. Cause like Millennia looks mad good while she's like a disgusted Rodon. Did she kill? No, Rodon's alive. I was about to flip out. For those who don't know, I love Rodon. He's my boy, and I hate Millennia a great deal. So I just had like a mini panic attack that she killed him. I would have been so upset. He deserves much better.
Who took after his father Radagon and would go on to master gravitational magic, and Rykard, who pioneered new hex sorcery.
But everyone respawns, Angel, so we're all good. What happens to Radon's horse? Is he dead? That's so sad if true.
And would go on to feed himself to a great serpent. It follows that
For the DLC, I'm going martial arts or beast claw or extremely giant katana. One of the new 3 weapon types. And like I'll dabble in like random incantations. I'm not doing spells though.
at some point after this, Marika began to harbor doubts. Doubts about the Golden Order that she had had a hand in creating.
In Marika's own words, I declare mine intent to search the depths of the Golden Order through understanding of the proper way. Our faith, our grace is increased. Those blissful early days of blind belief are long past. My comrades, why must ye falter?
And it's at this point that we should talk about Marika's motivations, character. This is surely going to be one of those huge points of debate in the coming years.
Oh, so this is unconfirmed, huh? Is a lot of this unconfirmed? I know there's like debates going on. So far, I think what he said is pretty much confirmed, but apparently the intent is up for debate. Interesting.
For now, my working theory is that she wanted to discover the truth behind order and the truth behind the greater will, and she believed that bonds had to be broken so that they could be better understood. She believed that there was great meaning to be found in hardship.
Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle unto eternity.
For Lord Godfrey, his struggle ended at the end of his campaigns. According to his armor, he led the war against the giants, faced the Storm Lord alone. And then there came a moment when his last worthy enemy fell. And it was then, as the story is told, that the hue of Lord Godfrey's eyes faded. In truth, he was robbed of his grace. Then Marika sent him away.
My lord, and thy warriors, I divest each of thee of thy grace.
Wait, this voice is Marika? It sounds like Melina. Am I crazy? Is Melina Marika? What's going
Thine
on?
eyes dimmed, ye will be driven from the lands between. Ye will wage war in a land afar, where ye will live and die.
This became known as the Long
Part is speculation, unconfirmed things. You get a good amount of things confused in here. He might do a great video after the DLC. I see. It was 2 years ago. 9.4 mil. This has to be the one with the most views, right? That's Melina's voice. She explains. Okay, okay.
March of the Tarnished, as Godfrey and his tarnished descendants walked away from the lands between. But
You know which one I want to watch? This one, the Demigods. Is this going to be like Margit and Morgoth? I still don't understand what the hell happened there. Like, is Morgoth literally Margit just using his real name? I still don't know.
Queen Marika absolutely
We'll
had a
find out
plan
when we
here
watch.
that Lord Godfrey and his descendants would one day return stronger, having struggled outside of grace.
Then, after thy death, I will give back what I once claimed.
Oh, so it's like Godfrey had the golden projection, but Morgoth just made his a flesh projection?
Return to the lands between, wage war, and brandish the Elden Ring. Grow strong in the face of death. Warriors of my lord, Lord Godfrey.
Soon after, she found a new husband. Either that or a new husband was found for her.
When Godfrey, first Elden Lord, was hounded from the lands between, Radagon left Rennala to return to the Erdtree capital, becoming Queen Marika's second husband and king consort.
I thought it was a girl character until I saw the no shirt.
Taking
They got
the
me,
title
boys.
Of second
I'm gay now.
Elden Lord.
GG's.
The mystery endures to this day as to why Lord Radagon would cast Lady Rennala aside, and moreover, why a mere champion would be chosen for the seat of Elden Lord.
Whatever the
Yeah, Marika, I'm not sure I pronounce it. She's kind of a demon, huh?
case, as a part of this union, Radagon's prior 3 children with Renala became
True, Fiatra, true. What's up with the Moog Makella incest angle?
demigod stepchildren, granted grace thanks to their new family
True,
tree.
Pug.
Renala was broken by this, and so was her country, Leonia. The Queen's set reads, when Renala, head of both the Academy of Raya Lucaria and the Carian royal family, lost her husband Radagon, her heart went along with him. And then those at the Academy...
Radagon is the final boss, right? If so, it's kind of poetic in a way, because we did respec to kill him.
realized that
She
Renala
helped.
was no champion after all. In the wake of Radagon's betrayal and Renala's poor judgment, Leonia struggled with civil war, with the Academy of Raya Lucaria on one side
Burger King.
and the Carian royals on the
Versus the Chads. Oh, the Chads are against the Burger King? I didn't know.
It's here, during the age of the Erdtree, that Lunar Princess Rani, daughter of Renala and Radagon, stole a fragment of the Rune of Death.
It happened during the golden age of the Erdtree, long before the shattering of the Elden Ring. Someone stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, the Black Blade.
As mentioned previously, Malekith was Marika's shadow, and he had sealed destined death in a black blade. Then a fragment, only a fragment, of this Rune of Death was stolen. And once this happened, Malekith went a step further in protecting destined death. He bound the blade within his own flesh, such that none might rob death ever again.
This was a goated scene. I didn't know what the hell was happening, but it was a goated scene. All the voices that aren't from Vati are in-game voices from quest lines. I see. Also, Crazy J. What's up? Welcome in.
Too late, however. This fragment of the Rune of Death was used immediately, that night, to kill a demigod, Marika's own son, Godwyn the Golden.
That was the first recorded death of a demigod in all history, and it became the catalyst. Soon, the Elden Ring was smashed, and thus sprang forth the war known as the Shattering.
Wait. Are all the runes, like the great runes, those aren't shattered Elden Rings, are they? No, right? But that's something different?
There is a lot of really credible evidence that
They are?
Marika was
Pug.
behind this plot to have a fragment of the Rune of Death stolen. There's also a ton of evidence that Marika is behind the entirety of your tarnished quest, but we'll talk about that in another video. For now, all you really need to know, in terms of the timeline at least, is this. After the marriage of Marika and Radagon, and after a fragment of the Rune of Death was stolen, Marika went on to shatter the Elden Ring, and Radagon attempted to repair it, to no avail. The Elden Ring had been broken into runes, some great and some small.
You know, it's said that Lord Radagon harbored a secret. A famed sculptor of the Erdtree capital was once summoned to render Lord Radagon's likeness in giant stature, when he glimpsed the skeleton in Radagon's closet. And as such, it's said the great...
Wait, does that really happen in game? If you do whatever that spell is? Crazy if true. Alright, yo, maybe Miyazaki is cooking, bro. Maybe he is. Hear me out, guys. Hear me out. Lies of P gameplay, those Korean dudes, NeoWiz, they cook Miyazaki all day. But like the story stuff, Miyazaki might be that guy. I don't know.
statue harbors his secret too.
Of course, the huge twist in Elden Ring is that Radagon is Marika, or depending on what you believe, he became her, for she knew it was going to happen.
In
Yeah, it just said down there, you could argue this was the law of regression in effect.
Marika's own words, O Radagon, leal hound of the Golden Order, thou art yet
Guys, good news. Turns out I'm not gay. Radagon is trans. We're in.
to become me. Thou art yet
Let's go, Puggy. I look forward to seeing it. When you send it to me, let me know. We'll reveal it at the end of the video.
become a god. Let us be shattered, both. Mine other self.
You can tell when From Software is keeping something a little bit open-ended, and of everything in Elden Ring's lore, this will also...
I was about to say, literally everything seems extremely open-ended. Like, we're 24 minutes in. I know a little bit now. Brother, send help.
So go on to be one of the biggest unknowns as we move forward. For example, the wording, "Thou art yet to become me," reinforces that Marika and Radagon were two separate entities before the Shattering. However, in contrast, there is also evidence that Radagon was always part of Marika. For example,
Interesting.
Enya says that
The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika.
but how can this be if Radagon married Renala and had those demigod children? The only way that makes sense is if Radagon was always Marika and he just went over there to seduce Renala long ago. I'll present more concrete theories in the future, but
PTSD. Let me tell you.
on this matter, the most important thing is, what do you think? While you can figure out a ton of Elden Ring's story, not all of it is open to interpretation. Certain things are, and this is one of them. And your interpretation is a big part of what makes this story special. At any rate, the union of Radagon and Marika seems to be a union of two fundamental opposing laws of the Golden Order. We mentioned these laws earlier, actually. There's the law of causality, and Marika is an agent of cause and effect. And there's the law of regression, as Radagon is a character who aspires to be complete and regress together. So I have a theory that forcing these two beings that represent these concepts together would have corrected Marika's deviance. But even so, she was imprisoned in the Erdtree for the crime of the Shattering.
To the knowers, is he cooking right now? Do you guys agree with this statement? Or is he putting on a tinfoil hat?
Marika's trespass demanded a heavy sentence. But
Cooking?
even in shackles,
Ooh, Cod said meh. Interesting. Damn, looks like we gotta watch some more Elden Ring lore. And to the YouTube gamers, what's your stance on this? Let me know in the comments. So far, we have 2 votes for he's cooking, 1 vote for meh. And I have no idea what's going on.
she remains a god and the vision's vessel.
The conjoined Radagon and Marika even had 2 demigod children of their own, Mikola and Millennia.
Okay, Mikola and Millennia. F them. And then Mohg's the half-brother of Mikola. Okay. Man, I really hope we get to kill Mikola in the DLC. I know, like, his pod is where we enter.
2 children were born afflicted. Mikola was
Guys,
cursed.
wait. What if, like, reborn Mikola is as hard as Millennia? I mean, they're brothers in theory. Oh, God. What did I wish for?
With eternal childhood.
God.
And Millennia harbored a horrific rot within. Even so, these 2 children were both chosen as Empyreans. They were immensely sacred beings and eligible to inherit godhood from the greater will.
Alright, her being so jacked, it kind of makes sense now.
The greater will was just...
Wait, so is she not related to Rodon at all? I figured they were since they both have the same hair. And she apparently killed him? Is it another half-brother situation?
desperate
Half-sister?
to find a worthy successor. And indeed, in the Shattering War to come, many would try to claim the shards of the Elden Ring, and they would try to take the throne, including, of course, the Tarnished, who returned.
So they were fighting each other for, like, the shards? Is that what that scene was? Radagon, father of both. Radagon's the father of everyone, pretty much. Okay.
From their long march, at long last, which we'll talk about in the next main lore video. I should probably also mention here that if you become a patron, you'll see upcoming lore videos early, as that's one of the rewards you get if you pledge to the $3 tier. And if you think my
If
channel...
you guys want to see the Elden Ring DLC lore video early, sub to his Patreon.
Anyway, I figured this is the right place to end this video because the information here is going to be overwhelming. I bet it probably was too overwhelming, you know? It took me ages to commit these names and the relationships they had with other characters to memory, so I hope you guys are doing alright. One thing that helped me a lot was that we designed an enormous mind map.
My brain is still fried from fighting Millennia, to be honest. Alright, well, I just finished watching that. Listen, if I knew like 5% going in, maybe I'm at 15% now. This is still me. That was still confusing AF. Luckily, I do have lore masters in the chat who can help me. If you enjoyed watching that on YouTube, handshake. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing. And if you want to, you can join these Twitch frogs up above my head over on Twitch. Link in the description below. See you when I see you.